You're listening to the Health and Happiness Podcast with Travis Kemper and
Lauren Maxwell. Each episode, we share easy-to-implement strategies to improve your health, happiness, and overall quality of life. Don't forget to drink water and get some sun. You're basically a houseplant with more complicated emotions. Unknown. How's it going, Travis? What have you been up to this week?
it's good. Football's officially over, and I think I said last week that I quit my job was officially as of last week. So this week I was off before I start my new job next week. Tomorrow. And I worked on my basement. So I framed my basement and got an electrician to come over because I don't mess with electrical stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got all that done. And next is putting in insulation and drywall so I can have my basement gym soon.
Exciting. Lots of exciting things.
Very exciting. How's it going?
Well, so my stepdad fell off a ladder and
Well, that's not good.
No, my week has not been great. Well, other than this, I guess it was fine. But this kind of dominated at least the end of my week. So my stepdad fell off a ladder and is currently in the hospital with some severely broken ribs, fractured spinous processes in his vertebrae, and a concussion. It's been a long few days and going to be an even longer road to recovery, but today is the first day that they have gotten his pain level a little bit under control. So he's in pretty good spirits, which is probably like the best news that I've had in 4 days or something.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty nasty fall.
Yeah. He was apparently trying to trim some trees on a 10-foot ladder. And I asked him what happened, and he was like, "Oh, I got the woozies." I guess he gets dizzy. And I was like, what the heck? You never told me that. We could definitely work on that.
It's a good reason not to climb ladders.
Yeah. So, and with my mom recovering from her broken shoulder still, they're kind of just a little bit of a mess. So hopefully this next week will be a little bit smoother. We'll see.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
That's rough. I hope all goes well in the healing process.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so too. Anyway, enough about that. What are we going to talk about today?
Water.
I like it. Hydration.
Hydration or dehydration. Yeah. So just some basics about water. It makes up, somewhere between 50 and 70% of your total body weight. It's a vital component of all living cells and extracellular fluids. It acts as a solvent, regulates body temperature, aids in digestion, and helps regulate acid-base balance. Other benefits of water: it helps get rid of waste through urination, perspiration, and BMs, which is bowel movements, pooping. It lubricates and cushions your joints, protects your tissues, and it can boost metabolism. We need more studies on this, but one particular study showed up to a 30% boost in your full body metabolism.
Oh, wow.
Which is
I didn't know that.
Pretty insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do know that if I'm dehydrated, nothing comes out in the morning. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if that's true. However, like I said, I couldn't find that many studies on that.
Interesting.
So I don't feel comfortable saying, yeah, it definitely gives you this huge benefit, but I think that it probably does.
Yeah.
It also, if you're trying to lose weight or maintain your weight, it'll make you feel more full. So you're not hungry as much.
Yeah, that's good.
Lauren, what's dehydration?
So dehydration can be defined as a decrease in total body water content due to fluid loss, diminished fluid intake, or both. Symptoms of dehydration can range to some mild and moderate symptoms and all the way to some severe symptoms. So mild to moderate dehydration would look like dry mouth and tongue, thirst, headache, lethargy, fatigue, dry skin, muscle weakness, lightheadedness, dizziness, lack of focus, irritability, decreased memory, decreased cognitive functioning, increased anxiety, and decreased strength and endurance. That is just mild to moderate. Severe symptoms of dehydration look like sunken eyes, lack of tears, sunken fontanelles, especially among infants. So fontanelle is like the soft spot in babies' heads. Yeah.
Thanks, because I didn't know that. I don't know anything about babies.
Yeah, that's my specialty.
Yeah,
So
babies are scary.
it can sink in. Typically those are like not soft after 18 months. So you probably would not see that in older people who are older than 18 months, but
I got
yeah.
a pretty hard head.
Right. As I mean, you should. Not in the sense of like that. Seriously, like your head is hard, not like whatever. You know what I mean. I wasn't trying to insult you.
I'm so offended.
Also, other symptoms are hypotension, tachycardia, and unconsciousness, probably at the worst.
And tachycardia would be rapid heart rate,
Yes.
increased heart rate.
Thank you.
For those that don't know. Yeah, when I get dehydrated, I would say mild to moderate. I don't think I've ever had severe dehydration, but
Thankfully.
it is always, yeah, it's always accompanied by fatigue and a headache. My wife gets mad at me because whenever she has a headache, I'm just like, why don't you drink some water? And then she does, and it usually works. So
yeah, that's like my first go-to. But yeah, fatigue and severe fatigue and headaches usually for me too.
Yeah. So on top of those, there's lots of other more severe problems with dehydration, like just about any morbidity and mortality factor. Dehydration is associated with a whole bunch of things, including cancer and diabetes and all sorts of nasty diseases that you obviously don't want. Healthy adults with normal BMI, water accounts for, we said this earlier, 50 to 75% of the body weight, approximately 60 in most people. And a person can become dehydrated if they lose as little as 3% of their body weight from water depletion. Honestly, that sounds like a lot to me, but all the studies seemed like that was a little.
Yeah, that seems like a lot to me too. But
yeah, and I've seen other ones, other studies that we looked at said 1 to 2% of your body weight loss in water. But again, that seems like a lot to me.
Right? Yeah.
That's like 2% for me is like 3.5 pounds of water.
Right. Like that seems like a lot.
Doing my math right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's a lot. But they noticed, you know, for psychomotor and memory skills, decreased cognition overall, also decreased strength and endurance, like you mentioned before, in performance. Greater dehydration leads to more severe problems, basically.
Yeah, and the risk of developing urinary tract infections, renal stones, dental caries, and constipation can increase due to dehydration. So yeah, not a fun thing. It's associated with a lot of bad things. How common is it, Travis?
Depends where you look.
Sure.
Some studies say up to 75%.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. Yeah, there's surveys that report 50-ish percent. Most of the studies that I've seen have seen like a clinical diagnosis of dehydration in 17 to 28% of people, which is still a lot.
It's still a lot.
Yeah, that's like somewhere close to 100 million people in the US.
That's too many people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
It's frequent cause of hospitalization, like you mentioned earlier. Dehydration can cause urinary tract infections. For those of you that don't know, urinary tract infections, especially in older people, are really, really serious. They cause severe confusion, all sorts of cognitive issues. Lots of falls are caused by this confusion, dizziness, all sorts of horrible things, really.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of, I don't know, maybe not so commonly known that those all result from UTIs, especially with older people, because that actually happened to Nolan's late grandfather, where they thought he had a second stroke, but he just had a UTI that was so severe.
Yep.
Crazy,
A lot of
crazy.
my patients, I see that a lot in home health.
Mm,
I see that a lot versus like a UTI in you or me, more likely in you, would be like you'd be uncomfortable. You
yeah,
wouldn't have any
no,
cognitive difficulties or anything like that, most
right,
likely.
right.
But yeah, get 50 years older and it completely changes.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we got some studies on dehydration. So one study investigated the effects of dehydration and rehydration on cognitive performance and mood. So they had 12 men recruited from a college in China. Baseline testing was performed after 12 hours of overnight fasting. They did testing of urine and blood osmolality to determine hydration state. Height, weight, and blood pressure were measured following standardized procedures. They were given a visual analog scale for the subjective sensation of thirst, and a profile of mood states questionnaire was applied. And finally, tests for cognitive performance were administered. So then they were asked not to drink for 36 hours, but were given 3 meals a day. And then were tested with all of those things again. After that, they were given 1,500 milliliters of water to drink over 15 minutes. So this is the rehydration part. And then 1 hour later, they were tested again. So baseline testing, dehydration testing, and then rehydration testing. The results showed that during the dehydration test, participants had lower scores of vigor and esteem-related affect, and lower total scores and higher error rates on the cognitive performance test. Compared with the dehydration test scores, rehydration test scores showed that fatigue and total mood disturbance improved, and scores for some of the cognitive performance tests increased, especially with regards to memory, attention, and reaction, which was, I mean, pretty quick rehydration. They only gave it an hour later, and already you're seeing those increased results. So drink your water. Lots of bad effects.
That's a crazy study.
I know.
Don't drink water for 36 hours.
I would never sign up for that study.
I would have to be extremely desperate and they would have to be paying pretty well.
Pretty well. Yeah. When I saw 36 hours, my jaw dropped and I was like, wait, are you kidding? Are you kidding? And
Not
then
a
like,
chance.
So
another study looked at dehydration's effect on exercising, specifically in males. These were all cyclists, and they looked at a cycling test. So it was something that these participants were all trained for. It's not just throwing a random person that's never done anything. So what they did is they split them into 2 groups. One group was asked not to drink the night before, so they came in kind of dehydrated. The other group was drinking normally, and they drank fluid to match their sweat losses during their exercise. They did 90-minute cycling exercise test, and then they did a time trial after that. And what they found is that time trial performance was 13% slower when subjects began at 2.3% dehydrated. Again, this is the body mass dehydration, which is 2.3 is a lot. And they ended at 3.1% dehydrated. That was kind of their dehydration group. Basically, what they found is that overall dehydration decreased limb blood flow, and it was especially pronounced in high intensity or prolonged exercise. It decreased cerebral blood flow, which is to your brain, with high intensity or prolonged exercise and progressive dehydration. And they think that it leads to early fatigue. The the participants reported more fatigue during the tests and performed worse at the end when they were more dehydrated.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. Lauren, I get this all the time when I tell people to drink more water. But if I drink water, I spend all night peeing. What would you say to the listener that is saying that right now when we're telling people to drink more water?
Well, I complain about that and I do it anyway. So number one, do it anyway, but also there's ways to mitigate that, right? So if you're drinking drinking more throughout the day and less in the evening, which I'm guilty of, which is why I complain about this. If you drink less in the evening and more throughout the day, you're not going to be peeing as much at night. So I understand very much the argument of getting less sleep and trying not to get less sleep by any means possible, but not drinking water is not a solution to that. Just drink water earlier in your day.
I have not the sleeping problem or the peeing at night problem. I drink a lot in the morning. I try and drink at least 75 ounces before lunch. And I drink anywhere from 100 to 125 a day, depending on what I'm doing. I like to get 100 at least.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I need to be better about monitoring my water intake throughout the day. It was a goal for me for a long time just to drink adequate amount of water. And I think I've pretty consistently been able to achieve that. So now my next goal is to do a timed intake of instead of chugging it at night, drink it throughout the day more often. I just get so thirsty at night, but you want to know why? It's because I don't drink enough throughout the day. That is directly in correlation with that.
I have the opposite problem and I don't get thirsty at night, but even if I don't drink in the morning, I generally don't drink much in the evening. So I have to load my mornings because for whatever reason, I just don't drink that much in the evening.
I mean, probably better for most people to not drink that much in the evening. I just get really thirsty at night. Around dinner time, I just want to drink water constantly.
How much water do we need?
According to the Mayo Clinic, men need 124 fluid ounces and women need 92 ounces. But 20% of that comes from food. Sorry, ounces per day, I guess, if that wasn't clear. 20% of that comes from food. So that's a lot. But once you factor in that 20% comes from food, I think
that makes it easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then you need for an average man, 96-ish, 95 ounces drinking.
You're good at math. I'm going to let you do the math.
You're just assuming I drink it right, or I did it right. Yeah, I drink it right.
Yeah, I'm assuming.
I didn't do it right, in case you're wondering. It's
dang.
more like 99 to 100 ounces, which is right where I get 100
There
to
you go.
125. Yeah.
Perfect. So what would it be for women if 20% of that comes from food?
Pop
quiz.
74.
Perfect. I drink more than that.
There you go.
I drink actually, I think I drink about 90 a day. Pretty good.
That's pretty good.
So, Travis, how do we know if we're drinking enough water?
You don't feel thirsty. That's a good one. And your urine is colorless or light yellow. That's how I really tell.
That's how I tell too.
Yeah. When you pee, if it's orange, you need to go drink some dang water.
Can you drink too much water?
Most people are not going to run into this problem. However, I remember from way back when I used to listen to the radio, I remember them talking about another radio station somewhere. I don't remember where this was, but they had a contest. The Nintendo Wii came out. So this is dating this. But I remember this because it was catchy. It was called Hold Your Wii for a Wii. So
Wow, that is catchy.
Yeah, isn't it? So I still remember this. This radio competition, the contestants were supposed to be drinking as much water as they could without peeing. So they're in the studio with 4 or 5 of them. They're drinking as much water as they can.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah. Well, especially the thing was only $250. This is not worth $250.
Oh, this is not worth it.
I think it was.
Oh my gosh.
My guess is it was more that you could not get these things. Like you could try and you could have your $250, but you're not going to find it. Anyway, so they made these people drink as many bottles of water as they could. Whoever drank the most amount of water was going to win the Wii. And someone ended up dying. I think it was a woman, if I remember correctly. Basically, she died because she drank too much. Most likely, it's caused by hyponatremia, which is basically your blood just gets so diluted that the sodium concentration in your blood, the salt concentration is just not optimal. And yeah.
Wow.
Die from that. So yeah. Some of the contestants reported feeling drunk. So if you're drinking enough water that it feels like you're drinking alcohol, you're drinking too much water.
Whoa, that's bizarre.
Yeah.
You would feel drunk from water.
Most people are not going to run into that problem.
Yeah, I think you would have to drink a lot of water quickly.
Yeah. Most of us are going to run into dehydration before overhydration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So start measuring your water intake.
Yeah.
And try and increase it most likely.
Yeah. And figure out what like strategy. I don't know. I guess strategies is a good thing we could add. Strategies for me. Having a nice water bottle that keeps my water cold all day is a big strategy of mine. Also, the water bottle has to have a straw because I won't drink it if it's like open or like I don't know. Don't ask me why, but it has to have a straw. If I have a straw, I drink so much more water. So find the things that like motivate you. There's water bottles with like times on them for like when to drink the water, like drink this much by this time. Yeah, I've looked into a lot into water bottles because this was a struggle for a long time for me. There's water bottles that have like motivational things every like few tick marks. Find a water bottle that works for you if that's a motivating thing, because that was a game changer for me. I have my water bottle that is like the prettiest thing ever, and it has a straw, and it's great, and it holds a lot of water and it keeps it cold.
I just need it to have the measurements of how much water I'm drinking, so it tells me that it's easy to track in my head. Then I just drink 4. The other things you could do is like flavor your water, obviously.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Yeah, the like Mio or something like that is a popular one. And that can really help you drink more. If you're struggling. That's all I got. This was fun. Lauren, you did a great job today.
You did a great job, Travis.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to this episode of the Health and Happiness Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode and are getting benefits from our content.
If your life is improving in part due to the information in this podcast, we would greatly appreciate you sharing the episode with your family and friends on social media and leaving us a review so we can continue to reach more people and improve the health and happiness of the community at large.
Thanks again, and we will see you next week for another episode of the Health and Happiness Podcast.